It's the year of listening. Today we're talking about love. Thanks for joining me. I'm Geoff Gertzen. Love. Today we're talking about love. We instinctively want it. Everyone wants to be loved. We know what it is to be loved and we like it. We like it a lot. And we also instinctively want to give love to others, but that seems harder. And although in our minds we want to give love, sometimes we find a more powerful force at work in us. It's the force of our own self-interest, our own desires, our own wants. Sometimes we really try to be loving, only to discover that the people that we're attempting to love don't feel loved by our actions. Because what we're attempting isn't what they think is loving. And then when we're brutally honest with ourselves, sometimes we want to do love without doing cost. We want people to think we are loving, but we don't want to actually carry the cost of loving. I have a particular grump with corporates in this regard. They trumpet their social giving in the media. Look at us, they say. Look at how generous we've been this year. And yet, when you nut down into the detail, the money they gave away came from their staff or from their customers, not actually from them at all. They want to be seen to be loving without actually having to carry the cost of love. Love is unavoidably costly. And then love is somehow connected with our feelings. We feel good when we're loved, and we feel yuck when we're not loved. We retreat into ourselves when we are around people that are not loving at all. There's the dreadful account of aid workers arriving at an orphanage in Eastern Europe somewhere during the collapse of communism, of them going into a large room of babies, only to find a total and eerie silence. The children had given up crying because, well, no one came when they cried and no one loved. Today, we're talking about love. We think it would be a good thing if the world had more of it. We certainly want more of it. Love's important. We know we want to give it, but how? Now, to help us, I want to begin with a quote from Paul Tillich. He's described as an existential theologian and a religious socialist, but also as one of the most influential theologians of the 20th century. Don't worry about those labels. I don't know what an existential theologian is either. Paul Tillich was born in Germany in 1886. He was a Lutheran minister who served as a military chaplain during World War I. After the war, he lectured in German universities, but that came to an end when he was banned because of his criticism of Hitler and the Nazis. He was forced to move to the US, where he taught at Union Theological Seminary, at Harvard, and then at the University of Chicago. In his book entitled Love, Power and Justice, Paul Tillich says this: love listens. It is its first task to listen. You might see this paraphrased on the internet as the first duty of love is to listen. Well, 2025 I've dubbed the year of listening. My prayer this year is that we become better listeners. I want to become a better listener. I've never regretted listening. I've often regretted speaking, and especially speaking too soon. But speaking seems to come more naturally to me than listening. I want to say what I think. I want to be heard. I want you to know when you're wrong and I'm right. I want to say what I want to say. Paul Tillich draws love and listening together when he says love listens. It is its first task to listen. Come with me. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Deuteronomy is quite easy to find. It's early in our Bibles. Now, Deuteronomy is a book of second chances. Israel have messed up. God has done great things for them. I mean, great things, not little things. And they responded by making a golden calf, which they worshipped. Instead of being grateful to God for his amazing deliverance, they grumbled, they moaned, they turned away, and they committed great sin, so that they were banished into the wilderness until that whole generation died. But now, God is giving them a second chance to experience the blessing of the land that he's long promised them. They're gathered on the plains of Moab. That's east of the Jordan River. They're looking west. They're going in. But Moses is not going with them. The leader that they've relied on for a whole generation is not coming in with them. So as his last duty, Moses preaches 3 sermons that will set them up for success. And it all starts with listening. Because listening is the foundation of success. Deuteronomy 6 verse 1 says, "Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land to which you are going over to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you all the days of your life, and that your days may be long." Moses begins by speaking of long and blessed life. I want that. How about you? Of course you do. Here's the way to have long days filled with much blessing. Tell us, Moses. Tell us how. Well, verse 3. Hear therefore. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel. Blessing comes from listening. Picture the scene. Young parents with a willful toddler. Mom patiently giving instructions, but those instructions don't seem to enter the child's head. And so she repeats them. Still nothing. And so she repeats them again and again and again. Eventually she says, "Stop. Look at me. Listen up. Are your ears open? Are you listening?" And that's God with Israel and with us. Our lives are surrounded by real danger, things that can really hurt us, things that can harm us, destroy us for eternity. God says, listen up. Stop. Look at me. I know the way. I know the dangers. Let me help you to lead a life of blessing. Just listen. Sometimes there are warnings printed on products we buy. Sometimes those warnings are stunningly stupid. Like a box of eggs who had a warning label on it that said, "This box contains eggs." Or how about the warning on some sleeping pills that said, "These pills may cause drowsiness." One chainsaw had a sticker on it that said, "Do not hold the wrong end of the chainsaw." While Vidal Sassoon put a label on their hairdryers that said, "Do not use while sleeping." A label on an iron says, "Do not iron clothes on your body." I especially like this one, placed on a washing machine. It says, "Warning, do not put any person in the washer." Or how about the warning that comes with this product? "Warning, this costume does not enable flight or superhuman strength." Now, you and I know that manufacturers have to put those sorts of labels on their products because stupid people will have actually tried those things. I'm sure someone has sued an egg company for putting eggs in an egg box and selling them as eggs. And someone has definitely tried to put someone into a washing machine. God says, don't be stupid. Listen. Listen to me. Listen to the warnings here. God's call to listen to him is a direct word to each of us, because the loudest voice in my head is my own voice. Have you noticed that about yourself? And in the day of algorithms, we are constantly fed our own voice. And that's the way YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok work. They feed you the things that interest you. They feed us the things that we click on, and the things we like, and the things we share, and the things we hover over. If you watch dog videos, well, you'll get more dog videos sent to you. If you watch a video on bunions, soon your feed will be full of advice on bunions. If you believe the earth is flat, you'll get sent every video that's ever been made proving that the earth is flat. Google's collecting data on you. Google knows who you vote for. Google knows what you eat and what you think. And it feeds you. More of you. More of what you think. More of what you like, you. Of course, that's why it's so addictive. It agrees with us in everything. It never confronts you. And the more you hang out with you, the more everything looks like you, thinks like you, acts like you. Soon you start to believe that everyone is like you. And God says it's not like that. No. Instead, stop listening to yourself and instead listen to me. Hear me. Shema me. I know the way of blessing. I know the way of life. Commit to my voice. Commit to listening to me. Let's have a little quiz to help us consider this. Don't shout out your answers. Just do a little internal audit in your head on yourself. Question 1. How many hours a day do you spend on media in an average week? Media, by that I mean TV, DSTV, sport, news, movies, series, rom-coms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. How many hours a day? Got a number in your head? Don't tell me. It's just between you and God. I suspect you probably underestimated it. I did some research. According to Statista.com, The average American consumes 12 hours, 31 minutes of media a day, every day. They reckon that included an average of 6 hours, 45 minutes of video consumption, to which is then added social media and all the other stuff. Basically, that says that the average American isn't doing anything else. Now, I don't know if those figures are correct, but whatever the actual figure is, it's a lot. Question 2. How many hours in an average week do you spend listening to God? So again, add it all up, everything. Bible reading, Bible study, life group, church, podcasts, everything. Question 3, do you need to make some changes? Or perhaps I should ask that question like this. Will you make some changes? God says, listen to me, listen to him. Humans have never been good at listening to God. The Israelites proved that. But God says to us, I made you, I love you, I know how this thing called life works. Listen to me. I'll save you much pain. I'll bring you much blessing. I'll take your life and make it count for eternity. Just listen to me. Will you? Will we be a church that hears God? Now, when we do that, we'll hear that listening and loving are unavoidably interconnected. Deuteronomy 6 verse 4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you, with great and good cities that you did not build, and houses full of all good things that you did not fill, and cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. And when you eat and are full, then take care lest you forget the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. When we listen, we're shown that our hearts are made to love God. And the purpose of our lives is to love God. The purpose of your life is not duty, it's not religion, it's not burden, it's not obligation, it's love. You're made to be a lover of God. We're not made for self-love, we're made for God-love. Now, God-love would be dreadful if God was dreadful, like having to love an ogre or a beast, but he isn't dreadful. And the world thinks he is, which is why it doesn't love him. But he's wonderful, he's kind. He's steadfast, he's gracious, he's full on in with you. He's patient and long-suffering, and he's totally committed to humanity, even under the most extreme provocation. We can hate him, we can throw the middle finger at him, shout at him in anger, but still he loves us. We can fill our hearts and our lives with all sorts of other stuff, but still he'll gently woo us. Because he made us for loving him with all our hearts and souls and might. We're like a TV remote. So picture your lounge, I don't know, 100-inch smart curved QLED extra ultra viewing bliss. There it is, mounted on the wall. Images so clear that they look like they'll jump out of the screen at you. And then let's look around the room for the remote control. Scratched, dog chewed, taped up with duct tape because you've sat on it and you poured your coffee over it. That remote control is made for that TV. It's no value without the TV. When we upgrade TVs, we don't keep the remote or frame the remote or put it on the wall. It points towards the TV, and it's for the TV. And when it works well, then people love the TV. That's us. We're made to love God with all of us, to point to him with all our hearts and souls and strengths. He reminds us of that if only we'll listen. Now, when you do love God, then that love unavoidably overflows out from you. It's just like new grandparents. They're revolting, aren't they? Have you seen my grandchild? I've got pictures, 800 pictures. Gorgeous. First tooth, first words, first spoon of butternut. Oh, look at how cute she is. Said my name today, Grampy, Grammy. That's what love looks like. It unavoidably manifests. It overflows. It bubbles out. Verse 6, these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand. They shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. When you love God, it's just obvious and visible. You read something in the Bible and you want to share it because it's just so exciting. When you're reading Dr. Seuss with your children, you can't help but tell them of the God you love, even though it isn't in the story, the God who loves you and the God who loves them. You name your house Grace, and your love for God just can't be contained, it overflows. When you watch a young couple that are in love, they overflow with each other. They're also quite revolting, actually, aren't they? They stare in each other's eyes, they can't get enough of each other, they talk about each other, they think about each other, they post on their favorite site, in a relationship. When you love God, it just bubbles out of you. You bubble out with how living for Him has just been the greatest blessing and the only way you've coped in the midst of dreadful tragedies. When you're in love with God, you share how God has given you water for your thirst, peace for your anguish, purpose in your emptiness, hope in your darkness, joy amidst the fears. God says, listen, love me. Let's think of God often. Don't forget to love Him when life is brilliant. Great holidays, great schools, home extensions, bonds paid off, children, grandchildren. Don't forget to love God in the blessing. Verse 10, when the Lord your God brings you into the land that He swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you, with great and good cities that you didn't build, and houses full of all good things that you didn't fill, and cisterns that you didn't dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you didn't plant. And when you eat and are full, then take care, lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You see, loving God brings blessing, all sorts of blessing, from flourishing cities and wells to vineyards and olive groves. God blesses with food and clothes and houses and Wi-Fi and a beautiful mountain. And when we have those things, then it's going to be so easy to stop loving the one who gave it all in the first place. But love does not forget. Love keeps on listening. Love remembers. The person in love with God gets into their car and lets their heart sing of God. And when the bonus accrues in the bank account, love sings of God. And it listens to what God says to do with that money. When you wake in the morning and you jump out of bed with that great seely feeling, love for God says, thank you. How can I use today as an expression of my love for you? When your grandchildren cuddle on your knee and they say, Granny, read it again. We thank God. When the braai's sizzling with delights and you're marinating in joy, remember God. Remember your love for Him. If you're not aiming to love God more, then you're wasting your life. And you won't love God if you're not listening to Him. The first duty of love is to listen. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Whatever you do this year, hang out with people who are good listeners to God. Hang out with people who are in love with God. Hang out with people who will challenge you and encourage you to love God more. Hang out with people who are striving not to waste their lives because they are resolved to listen to God. Won't you pray with me? Father, help me to listen to you. Help me to love you. Help me to overflow with you. Inhabit my hands and my eyes. Inhabit my home and my speaking. May I never forget you in the blessings you provide. Instead, turn my self-love into God-love, into you love, I pray. For Jesus' sake. Amen.